Welcome to the latest episode of the Podiatry Business Podcast with myself, Lorcan O'Donoghue, health business mentor, podiatrist and clinic owner. So whether you're listening to this on podcast or you're watching it on YouTube, and we are on YouTube, it's great to have you listening. So the title of today's podcast is the number one recruitment hack. And basically what I want to talk about is why some clinics are able to recruit and others just struggle. So there's two things I notice that clinic owners, when I speak to clinic owners who want to come and work with me to begin with, they consistently tell me there's just one of two things that they need. And usually 99% of the time, they're wrong, that this is not what they need. So the first is, I just need more new patients. So give me more new patients. What can I do to get more new patients? And more new patients is important, and having a marketing system is vital. So vital that I actually run a done-for-you marketing service for podiatry clinics and for physio clinics. But in a lot of cases, it's not the only thing they should be doing, because what you'll find with not a lot, if I'm honest, 99% of clinics is that they have a very leaky bucket, as in they're not actually making the most of the current patients that they're getting through. So that's one of the things they need to fix. But the second thing that they say is, I just need more staff. I just need to recruit. And while recruitment is important, it's not everything, okay? Now, recruitment in healthcare is a major issue worldwide. And if you think that by listening to this podcast or just playing lip service to some of the things we just talk about, that's going to solve everything, well, you're going to find it's not. You're going to be in the same position you are right now, which is you seem to be unable to recruit. Now, some clinics seem to always be able to recruit, don't they? They seem to have no problem getting people to come and work for them. And how the hell do they manage to do this? This is what I hear a lot of the time. So there's a few options that people have as a clinic owner when it comes to it. And one of the worst options that I see people do is they simply throw money at the problem. And what I mean by throwing money is they throw money in the form of wages at the problem. So they will give 50%, they'll give 60%. I've even spoken to clinic owners who've been given 75% of what that clinician brings in, they get to keep. And in those kind of numbers, those clinic owners are really just running the business so that the staff have a good wage, because there's nothing left. By the time they give them the 75%, 60%, whatever, pay the admin, pay everything else, there's probably 3-4% left. Now, I've done this before in my own clinic, before I knew what the hell I was doing. When I first opened a physio clinic, and I got a physio in, and I gave the physio, well, not the physio's fault, I gave the physio 66% of what they brought in. And it wasn't until years later I realized, after this person had left, when I sat down and did the numbers, and I probably put my head in the sand, didn't want to know, but I was making between 3 and 5% profit off it. So for every €100 that was coming in, I was probably making 3. Now, I was the one doing all the work to get it in, and ultimately it was not worth it. But I see it happen a lot, because what happens is clinic owners think, well, if I just pay more money, if I give a really good percentage, or if I really give a really good wage, and I'm based here in Ireland, and I see a number of clinics give astronomical wages that I know a lot of clinic owners themselves are simply not earning, and it's very short-sighted, because that clinic can't really be making a whole lot of money from those staff members. And it never really works long term, because now I understand how tempting it is, because it's a quick fix. I've got a hole, I need to fill it. Quick fix is I just pay someone more than anyone else to pay. But it doesn't really work long term, because what you're going to find is that you're going to tend to attract the kind of people that to work for you, that their primary driver is money. Now, that's okay. That's okay. I'm not judging those people. But if you're trying to attract somebody and their primary driver is money to work for you, you'll never really be able to satisfy them, because they can always go and open their own clinic and probably make more money in their head. Or they can always get somebody else to outbid you and pay them more money constantly. Because if you're going to do this and everybody else does this, what you're going to find is it ends up being a bit of an auction, and somebody will always pay more. And you'll never, ever be able to long-term retain those people. So you might be able to recruit, but you can't retain. So you tend to find with those clinics, people come and go quite quickly. And it's not always the best culture to work in, because it's all about making money. Similar issue would be in reverse when it comes to your pricing. If you're trying to be the cheapest, someone else can always come along and be cheaper. So it's not a great strategy in my opinion. And if it's something you're using, you should try to move away from it. Now, I'm not suggesting you do it all in one go, but it's something you should move away from. I know this because I did it myself with my staff. I had staff working for me, and I don't know whether they're listening to this now, they no longer work for me, that I paid them more than I paid myself. And yet they weren't satisfied. They felt that perhaps that I was getting more than them and they weren't satisfied, etc., because it was all about money. And that was my fault for building the business that way and building the culture. So what do I do about that, Lorcan? That's what you're saying to me. Well, my advice, or the hack that I'm going to give you, is that instead of trying to attract via throwing money at it, instead become a destination place to work. Be the type of clinic that everybody wants to work. Now, recruitment becomes easier if more. Now, I'm not saying recruitment is easy. Recruitment is hard everywhere for everyone, but it becomes easier if more clinicians want to work in your clinic for reasons other than simply money. And it takes a little bit of time for this to bed in, and you will start to notice that actually you're able to retain clients for longer. The culture is better when they're there, okay, or staff, I should say, and the culture is better when they're there, and you tend to get better quality applicants. Now, when I say quality, I don't mean they're bad people if they're not, but what I mean is that you get a better fit for what you're looking for. So if I give you some examples of how clients of mine have used various techniques to become a destination clinic. So firstly, I would have a number of clients actually, who live in the west of Ireland. In the west of Ireland is a gorgeous place to live. And what they're doing is they're selling a lifestyle rather than selling an income. So they're selling a lifestyle. Come and live in a beautiful west of Ireland. You're beside the beach. You can finish work a little bit early. You can go surfing if that's your thing. You can go walk on the mountains. Housing is cheaper. It's just generally cheaper to live, and it's easier to get a house, especially with the way things are now in the Western world. It's hard to get somewhere to live. Secondly, I've seen clinic owners provide an amazing mentorship program, and they don't just pay lip service to it. So in my clinic, for example, what we would have is we have a mentorship program where over a year to 2 years, with consistent weekly mentorship, we will bring new grad staff and less experienced staff from not knowing enough about whatever to knowing everything. So an example would be, recently we had a new grad join us. And we also had a member of staff who had worked in the health service but never done any biomechanics. And our mentorship program would hold their hand from knowing nothing really about biomechanics, or not enough, to doing complex musculoskeletal cases independently. And that was a huge part of our ability to attract those staff. Thirdly, a concrete CPD culture. So I have clients who do CPD, and their CPD culture is very, very strong. So one clinic I think of, they close their clinic every single week for, I think it's an hour and a half every week, and as a team sit down and they do CPD together. They also have an active scholarship program where they pay their staff to go and do courses, like where they have one staff member at the moment doing a master's, and they're paying for that. Now that staff member might get paid more as a wage somewhere else, but they're not going to get that anywhere else. And fourthly, and probably the best thing of all, is to have an absolute great culture. And a great culture is kind of bandied around, and a lot of these things are bandied around. You'll see them in job advertisements, and what happens is people don't actually live it. But a great culture is massively important to attracting and in particular retaining people, because if you're all fur coat and no knickers, and when people come along and start working for you and they see actually there's no decent culture here, or what you told me was going to happen isn't actually here, you're not going to retain those staff. Now, a great book for you to read on this is by a physiotherapist from Australia called Tristan White. So Tristan White, his book's called Culture. believe it or not. So Tristan White is a physio in Australia, and he owns a physiotherapy business that is all house visits. So they go to your house, or they go to rest homes or old people's houses or homes, and they treat patients. There's actually no office. There's no clinic for the staff to come. Now, you would think that that would be very difficult to build a decent team culture and a culture that retains staff, but that's not the case. And his business has been listed in the top 10 best places to work in Australia for multiple years in advance. So if you're looking to see how you can do this, how you can build a great culture, if he can do it, you can do it. And I would strongly recommend you go off and buy that book. It's not that expensive. You get it on Amazon. It's Culture, and it's by Tristan White. So what you need to do, if you decide that this is something you want to do, you don't want to just throw money at the problem because it's getting harder and you keep having to pay more and more and more, and you're not going to actually make any profit. It's not worth your while opening that business or having that staff member. Then you need to maybe change approach. You need to look at the hack that we have, and you need to start by thinking about what is it that your ideal staff member, your clinician, wants. What is that they would want in a business other than just money? Now, I'm not saying that you pay people an inappropriate amount. That's not what I'm saying. You pay people a fair wage. Absolutely you do. But what else is it that people want? Because if it's just about money, you're going to have a problem. And then you build a business that delivers that. So you figure out what it is they want, and you build a business and a culture, and you build a strategy that delivers that for them. And what you will find is that you will attract, as word gets out, you will start to attract more candidates, the kind of candidates that are closer to your ideal clinician, and you'll retain them for longer. Now, if you think that you can just go and get a simple plug and play, or you simply can pay lip service to this idea. So what do I mean by the first? So if I have clients come along and they look at our training on recruitment, and they just simply copy everything I do and plug it in, and it doesn't fit with their business or their culture, it doesn't work, because you have to spend time thinking about it. Or if you think that you can just put out an ad that tells people you're going to do all of these things, and then you don't actually do it. And I have had podiatrists, in particular physios, come to me and say, listen, I worked in such and such. They told me to do this CPD. They told me to do this mentorship. They don't do any of it. They're too busy. So if you pay lip service to it, you will also fail. So you've got to buy into it. Also, the idea that you can simply recruit whenever you need to is not going to work. So if you're going along and you don't need to recruit for a year, and then suddenly you need somebody and you just put an ad out, it's not going to work, because you haven't got the culture, and you haven't got the strategy, and you haven't got the ideas behind it. It's what I would call helicopter recruitment. This idea of a helicopter comes from Tyson Franklin, talks about it in regards to marketing. But helicopter recruitment, instead, what you should have is you should have a consistent strategy of recruitment and retention of staff. Now, nobody's going to stay with you forever. Unfortunately, they're not. It'd be great if they did. Life would be a lot easier, but it's not reality. People leave for various reasons. So you need to have a consistent recruitment strategy, not just helicopter recruitment. So to recap before I finish, if you're having problems with recruitment, and you think you just throw more money at it, and you see other clinics doing the same thing, don't be tempted to do that, because what you'll find is you're going to end up with a business that's not sustainable, not satisfying for your staff, not satisfying for you, and it's going to be more stressful for you to run the business. Instead, build a kind of business, build a kind of clinic that is exactly what your ideal clinician is looking for, and do consistent work on recruitment and retention of your staff. So, this is Lorcan O'Donnell, podiatrist, health business mentor, and clinic owner, signing out until next week. If you want any help from me with any of this, well, just reach out to us. You know what to do at this point.